Hello, welcome. Start your own financial newsletter. Sounds like a lot, but nowadays people are more aware of money and shortages of that. Being retired, there's only so much there. So I've looked at a lot of these things, and I get more and more, and they all boil down to two main ways of doing it. And at least if you're going to look at anything, you want to understand what's going on, and you want to learn all the market tactics that are there. And I'd like to explain those to you. So I can't predict the future or tell you what to do, but at least when you do make decisions, they can be wise, informed decisions. The two basic ways the stock market acts and marketing done to you in a similar plays on fear and greed. This part of the video shows the fear side, sort of where you don't want to end up. There is a place, this is an arcade, just taken a couple days ago, and unless the virus hits here, this wouldn't even exist. People would have to be hiding somewhere else. So you do have a relatively safe place with some distance and bathrooms and hand washing stations, but it's still not where people would rather not live. And this motivates you to do things to prevent that happening. Many people have, they can't handle like a $400 or $600 emergency. A good percentage of the people. This young woman with her young daughter has been here a while, and she just needs food and money. Can be a big motivator. So that's one reason people get into saving, and some of us they grew up the idea of saving for a rainy day. My parents grew up during the Depression, when my father and his family moved into a house in a new subdivision. When things didn't go well for people, they just disappeared at nighttime. They had too much shame to see their neighbors watching them leave, so they were just gone. By the heart of the Depression, there was maybe only two other families still there. My father's father was a merchant seaman and captain on a ship, so he could send money home so his family could stay in their house. But for the average person, it didn't happen that way. So there was sort of, a thing instilled in me, the fear of being there, and growing up where I'd see the winos in back where my father worked, just crash laying out in the street there, drunk. And to me that was the motivator of fear. It wasn't from marketing or something, but marketing does cover that. There is a lot of marketing now to your dollar. People saying, the government could just come in and take away your money now. And maybe there's some law and circumstances they can, but usually it's a more insidious way. Like supposedly they're printing about $1 million a second now, so they have money to give to everybody. And that sounds nice, that sounds great, but eventually, you can't do that forever. A lot of other countries have that model, and then they get raging inflation and stuff. The U.S. is sort of fortunate in that other people still like the currency, and there's problems in other countries, so they're willing to buy U.S. dollars. But that can't go on forever. So somewhere, even myself, Social Security is great. It just shows up every month. But at some point, they may not have as much to put into it, or it might be $50 to buy a loaf of bread or more. That's more on the fear side that motivates people. The other side of the coin is greed. Greed is a very powerful force. When I get newsletters, they haven't done that in a while because I don't really watch the ones that say, what could you do if you got this much money a month, or win this, would you buy a big yacht, or send your kids to college, or take a super vacation. It's all playing on greed. Factor is a big thing, but when I get a lot of things by telling me about a legendary investor or whatever, this guy has his special sort of secret system that he came out. They won't just say it right away. They'll give names to someone. I made so much money, or I made so much here. In fact, there's the other ones how to double your money in an hour or two. sort of a bit like going to the casino, it sounds like. And they may have some pretty good systems there. Someone's made money on that, but it just sounds too easy. I mean, maybe I'm used to life offering more challenges. And one thing I've found, if you can make a lot of money quickly in a situation, you could probably lose a lot quickly also. Because the old saying, past performance is no guarantee of future performance, is definitely true. You know, that's definitely does affect things that way. So, yeah, those things don't turn me on that much. If you're interested in that, you know, sure. Yeah, but I would recommend having most of your money in something which you would consider very safe, and then taking a small percentage as your gambling pile, you know, to put it in things that might be a bit more extreme, you know, that would pay off. Like some people say, they'll only recommend stocks that can go up 10 times, you know, so you make 10 times the profits, or 100 times the profits. Why bother in regular companies? Well, one way you might want to bother in regular companies is that they have a regular business model that's been there a while. And if, you know, the old days, not that long ago, if you put money in the bank or in a CD in a credit union, you get 5-6%. Before that, maybe 10%. You know, nowadays, you get about 0% or 0.1%. So one of the problems is the government, and the desire to provide easy money for everything, is just knock down the interest rates, so people aren't rewarded for saving. They're not really rewarded at all. If you put it in a regular account like that, what do you get? Well, you'd only not get much. If you were actually making much money, it'd be regular taxable income. Now, this is sort of where the stock market's getting force-fed. So when the stock market goes down, the government comes with all this tons of money to prop it up. Like about less than a year and a half ago, they raised the interest rate a tiny bit to get more where it should be. What happened? Stock market started crashing. So they certainly stopped that. They put it back down to hardly anything, and they let it, you know, keep the stocks up, and that was good. So that's sort of the problem you're dealing with. Is someone working and saving some money, they don't really get much for it. And on top of that, if you make it with stocks, you hold them for a year and a day, it's capital gain. So you may not really have to pay any tax at all, unless you make a lot of money. And if you don't make a lot, you don't pay tax at all then. So again, all the pressure is to boost the stock market, signs up. And that sounds great if you have a lot of money. But if you don't, well, you don't benefit from that. It's going up, all this money's going to buy stocks, prop up the market, and you're not benefiting, but the richest people benefit, and their net worth goes up and up. The other people have been struggling to get by, and that's a real problem. So that leaves a lot of influence for people like to put money into stocks, which I'm not really knocking the idea, but it seems like right now things are artificially inflated. So it's sort of a scary time where before you get a lot more for your money in stocks. Not less than 2 months ago, things crashed heavier than they had in a long time. And this is another one of the pitfalls, is especially if someone's new to it, you put all your money in, you saved, and all of a sudden things drop a lot. The news is horrible, so you want to sell and get out. Now, through each one of these downturns, I know people that life savings they sell, they lose 60, 70, 80% of the money they've had. And eventually, if they would have held on, it would have come back, and they would have got that back. Even now, they say the NASDAQ, which are the tech stocks, are about where they were before the crash. Which to me, a lot of things don't seem to make sense. They don't seem to make sense to other people also. But, they like to pretend, well, stock prices are based on, some market value or something's figured into. They're based on what people anticipate things to be, what they anticipate things to do. Now there is the argument, people are making money, they're taking it from someone else. Well, on some level, if it goes up a lot, reason why I would even entertain it, it's not like playing cards or going to the casino. If you have a good company, it's doing well, it's going up, everyone can benefit. They see that it's creating money. Of course, when the stocks go down, it's like the money just sort of disappeared and people thought they had a lot of money, and then they don't, and that's just the nature of the game. Now, the things arguing in favor of stocks are that, they've always come back before. So that's sort of reassuring, except past performance does not guarantee future performance. There's often crises and they seem real and they come on. But you go back to that other idea I talked about, the government printing all that money. Some way the dollar just not going to be worth a lot, and that's the fear to get people to look at other things. Like, well, if you make enough in stocks, you're sort of forced into that. But if you work hard and save, as my father explained inflation, is that you work your whole life to save $100,000, then you retire and you find out you have $10,000. And that's sort of the problem people are in when they want to have something to save. It's like all their work just sort of disappeared. So that's another motivation for looking at some type of investment thing. Now, one thing people do, which is saying, okay, gold has a certain inherent value. And I've heard the workshops or markets where the people that get into that, they're all white hair and no hair. They're older people, they worked hard, they have some money. They want to put it in some value that would be worth something later. It's not like they're going to create a whole lot of value. Like in the right stocks, you can have a company that goes up a lot, but at least what you have will have a certain inherent value if the dollar isn't worth something later. So that's sort of gotten more popular lately. Is gold getting pushed up too high? A lot of people think it's going to go higher. But, I'm not here to predict the future. So, the disconnect with stocks, like if you look at this morning they published the unemployment rate. It's the highest since the Great Depression. At the same time, stock market jumps up a couple hundred points. And that same sort of thing's been happening to other unemployment job things. So somebody's expecting a lot, more than I would. It's just a word of caution. But that brings me to the other side of fear, and that is the fear of missing out. So people had money in. It's an easy way to just go. They're worth more, it comes out, if they had money in stocks for a few years. So it seems like, wow, stocks are going up again for some reason. I don't want to miss out. I better get in and join the party while it's happening. And so people are jumping in. And there are other reasons for jumping in. One is the government's come along and said, okay, we're going to back up all these bonds. We're going to push the interest rates to ridiculously low amounts. Now, at some point, is the interest rate 0.5% lower, people are going to run out and buy new cars or something? Probably not. They're already in debt. But it gives the idea all this money's available. Some of the fears, well, the market aren't doing good. Junk bonds pay a lot better than other things, but would you want to hold those when things are crashing? Well, the government steps in and said, we'll buy the junk bonds. We might even buy stocks and stuff. So they're getting propped up by the government. The other governments bought stocks. I think Switzerland's bought a lot of Apple. So a lot of these big companies, it's not what you call a free market, where it finds the true cost, where it costs more to borrow money. People like that when things are working well, but when they're not working well, they want money from someone else. And of course then it's, well, you give all this money to them, want to help the people that are barely getting by. And that's a legitimate thing. I mean, there's a philosophy. Don't help people or they're not going to help themselves. But they're certainly helping the big companies survive. But that sort of leaves the point of the fear of the weakening dollar. But of course, in the meantime, there's the trough. People there looking to get money. If the government's going to back it, things are going to go up. And for some reason right now, the dollar is still a powerful currency. If we were in another country that didn't have that special thing about their currency, we'd be going broke and having major problems. I think Venezuela, even Argentina, where the government overspends, then they don't have the money, then the currency gets devalued. That may not happen right away, but if you plan on living a while, have savings, you may want to consider that as something you may want to plan for or account for. Okay, one of the main topic here is, okay, start your own financial newsletter. Well, I spent hours reading so many of them, and one of them is the promise of a lot of money. And the other is, to get people started, you have a free newsletter. And you show a lot of interesting stuff, how much people have made, and have something worth reading, maybe a few videos or so. And you can get your view, and people like that. Then you have a premium one that they pay something for. Now, some companies, I try to avoid naming names because I don't want to get mad at me and I don't make anything off anybody. I'd say like Motley Fool, who some ads I don't really care for, but so they're basic, lesser costing as basic stocks that have grown with the economy, and if you get at the right time, $50 a year, you could join. And then they'll have these special events like micro caps. And it's known small cap stocks have gone up more than big ones. That's just how it is over time. And now they're not as much as the others. So it's a bargain, maybe your best bargain of a lifetime. And that's true. But then you pay a few $1,000s to get their list of special stocks that are more likely to go up a lot more than the regular ones. The only thing I would say is there may be a reason the small cap stocks are lower now, because they might not have the resources to weather a long downturn. The economy just doesn't jump up together instantly, like a lot of people think they were. There's just sort of something I've noticed. There's like, if you make money and something like that, there's a certain joy about it. But if you lose money, the pain of the loss is worse than the joy of the experience. So, especially if you're older like me and you have no plans of going back to work, if you make a little bit of money, well, it's great, it's nice. You can be more comfortable and not worry about things. But if you lose what you have, well, then you're sort of, you're really stuck, So my idea is to try not to lose money. But still, if possible, make some money. And you have to take chances to anything. So there's other ways. People used to buy bonds, and that was a way, like savings accounts. And that would cushion if the stocks went down. The bonds were good. But with the government lowering the rates of everything, bonds pay just about nothing anyway. So it's not like you're going to jump in and buy bonds. Way where they motivate on both sides is one of my friends, Harry Dent. Well, my friends, I've never met the guy, but he used to predict cycles and things. And it's time for a downturn. And downturns are a normal part of things. There's a boom and there's a bust. Of course, with the government subsidizing things, the downtimes haven't happened yet, but they could be worse when they happen. But the idea is, and other people I know, that, well, there's usually a time when things get expensive and times things get harder and they get cheap. They're waiting to buy their house when things get cheap again. And supposedly that's how Kennedy's made a lot of their money. The mafia and other things, like in the Depression, they could buy stocks for pennies on the dollar. And when things came back to normal, they had a lot of wealth. So there you're sort of counting on, one, fear, because people are afraid of things going down and losing everything they have. And many companies have their sales pitches based on that. And then greed. You can't wait till things get bad. The worse they are, the more money you're going to make. That sounds a little sinister, but actually, they need someone to buy at the bottom. The bottom just gets lower. Go to that special event. And usually that's where they're going to charge a lot more to become a member. And yeah, there is the optimist side. America's not something you want to bet against. It's done well. The new technology, all of a sudden, they think they're going to spend a lot of 5G. So it can cost fortunes to that. There's money to be made. And then there's always some new thing they'll tell you about. And there's even some date in the future when everything's going to change. Usually within a month, then that passes. Then a month or two later, you hear about some other date when everything's going to change again. So it sort of keeps you coming back for more. The other thing I've noticed is that, like I've read this magazine, International Living, and it's good about, if you can't afford to retire in the U.S., go somewhere else. Things are a lot cheaper. You have a nicer lifestyle. You might be around ocean or springtime weather, to deal with a lot of snow. Healthcare can be a lot more affordable. And that sounds good, but like the guy that founded that, he's also on at least half a dozen or dozen investment sites, totally different names. And you want to pick a name if you're going to do one that sounds very good, maybe similar to an Ivy League school name or a famous school in the UK or somewhere, some other name that sounds very solid, like people heard before, and that's your name for your letter. Especially when you have a lot of them, you could be capitalizing on greed, you'd be capitalizing on fear of the downfall, and that also to give you credibility. You're going to make it pick a lot of predictions. Now, there's two ways of doing it. The simplest way is just to make a lot of predictions. When you look at stocks that look good, they have a lot of future, and recommend them. So 5 years from now, you have all these recommendations that you made, and you can give the date you made them and talk about how much they've all gone up. So why wouldn't anybody not want to follow you? I mean, if they followed you before, they would have done. You don't have to talk about the ones that didn't go up. That's not part of the case, unless you do the other one, which is usually something you subscribe to, and they list everything they recommend. Date they bought, what they bought it for, date they sold it, or what it's worth now. So you get a better idea how things were overall. So that's another option to get credibility. Because it's easy to see some of those and wish, wow, if I would have done that, I would have made this, I would have made that, and here I am, just sitting around watching. I didn't really make much of anything. But that's another way, to at least establish your name. And then the people, either you or your friends you hire, they like to use the word legendary. This legend on Wall Street or legendary investor. In addition to stocks, there's things like options, which a little bit more complex, and they'll have an option guy you can sign up with, and he'll tell you how to make a fortune just doing what he tells you. I mean, I'm trying to stick with simple things. I'm not really going to get into that. There's other people that give you these codes that work like magic, enter them, and you just take all this money out. And people write in that they've done it, and they've taken that money out. I guess to me, nothing's ever come easy. And easy come, easy go, do. So I may not have a whole lot of money, but if I handle it well, I should be able to retire in reasonable comfort, as long as the dollar doesn't become worthless. And then I have to make another plan. You'll see a lot of people that just don't like the government, and that's common. But you also, even though they might criticize the current government, they're really as scared of anyone that's a little further different or previous president or anything. So you'll see a lot of untrue facts put out there, scary about these people, and whether that's just to play on fears or it's just to be sure someone else doesn't get in office that might not be favorable to their thing. So don't take it too personal, but realize some of these people you just don't want to do business with. And it could be all of them for that matter. But at least you see what they go through. A little uphill here, so I'm doing a little harder breathing. Hopefully this is giving you some insight on things. I could do a lot more. I can get into a lot more detail. There's things, exchange traded funds, mutual funds, and a lot of other ways to invest. And hopefully this wakes you up, because the last thing I want is people to be totally broke. I think that once or 2 months without people having a job and things are falling apart, even with a lot of massive unemployment, is very unfortunate. It'd be nice if people were a little more self-reliant. I know there's a lot of reasons to discourage saving, but you want to have something of your own to live in, just like a downside. And I can get into more of that. The other topics I may get into, healthcare. But I hope you'll watch this. If you're still there, hit the subscribe button. And I'll probably do more on this topic. And then more on other topics. And then if things improve, I get back to my affordable travel, which I enjoy doing. But not really doing as much traveling now with the quarantine. But having a little financial reserve and learning how to travel affordable, it's a diversion. But hopefully I'll get that out of my system and forget about it soon. So this is definitely a topic that I could do more and should do more to cover. But I thought in the meantime, I'll give you an idea of how to look for stocks that a lot of professionals think will do well, even though when you look in financial world, you can get totally different takes on the same thing. There's a lot of large mutual funds and large companies where they hire people they're supposedly very sharp. They pick the funds, they pick the stocks to go in their funds. And now if you're going to buy that, you should look at the prospectus. And online you can get most of those prospectus. So you're interested, look at one of these fund families, look at stocks that have done well, or people think will do well, or they specialize in something you're interested in and you think will do well. And they should have a book online you can look at and tell you exactly how much and what they're invested in. That made some changes for me when I was looking at certain funds, and I thought, well, all these guys are experts and they're doing well. These are the few stocks they're putting all their money in. So if I did the same thing, I should do fairly well. And when I did those things, I did well too, at least as well, because I was cautious. I didn't want to put too much in at once. I was young, I lost money and got out, which it's a bitter experience, but it sort of kept me from even looking at any type of investment for most of the rest of my life. But it's sort of time to move on. So yeah, I'll do another one, I think, about how to get more money to save. Like one email I opened was talking about retiring rich, and you can start with $100, and well, $20 to them, $80 to your things. As you do well, you'll reinvest and get more from them. So they seem to give some confidence, and some people may need to start small, but there's always the thing of the bigger the risk, if you're going to promise a lot for a lot of money, there's a chance you'll lose it. That's why I guess if you came in with $100, hopefully you wouldn't be as catastrophic if you did lose that. But there are a lot of things, realizing baby boomers are retiring, they don't have a lot of money, so they can sell them things that are supposed to equal the edge and make a lot of money. And it could work if everything works right, or it may be one more, I guess, another brick in the wall, as they would say. Also, in addition to financial things, or at least another one of these, at some point I'll get into healthcare, which, being a healthcare provider for a lot of years, I sort of avoided because I don't want to get into individual topics. But like, supposedly, and this is from years ago, about 80% of healthcare dollars goes to prolonging the inevitable for another 6 months or so. And there's a lot, it's inefficient. A lot of people I've seen great doctors and got nowhere, and I was able to help them get better. So in the time and taking endless classes, I learned a few things. I can share that with people, but I can't be treating.